Welcome to Bob Talk. How's everybody doing today?
Melanie, Melanie, how are you?
You're on mute.
Well,
Okay. So I am doing well today. I am practicing being disciplined, which I'm doing much better and doing what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to do it. So I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
as for me, I'm feeling much better today. I think I am sharing earlier last week. I felt like I was really tired, a bit emotionally drained. So I'm just realizing that I need to make sure that I pay attention to those feelings and I don't allow myself to become burnt out because I got work to do.
Yes. I was challenged and sort of reprimanded because I've been taking on more and more tasks, and I didn't realize what I was doing. Sometimes we don't assess when we say yes to things, and it's not just saying yes to the event, but it's also yes to the preparation for the events. So I've been taking on more and more things, and so one of my good friends said, "I'm going to make a comment and or maybe a statement," um, and he said, "Don't you take another thing on." I said, "Okay, I hear you, bro. Okay, no more." And he said, "Don't you add nothing else to your plate." So that's what I've been doing is trying to assess some of it, how to delegate, and then recognizing what I can and cannot do. Um, what I'm really enjoying is swimming. I really and Sister Melanie had sent me a video about this woman who was challenged with doing swimming and stuff, and so it really inspired me. So and I could get in the water, but I've never really focused in on really using swimming as an aerobic activity and exercise. And so I started doing it. So now I can float and I can swim backwards. Oh wow! It's like yes, I can do this. So yeah. So I'm having fun doing that. So yeah.
Pastor, I never knew you couldn't float or swim backwards.
I wasn't really afraid of water. I could get in, I could swim, but and tread water and stuff. But as far as really just floating and swimming backwards and all of that, I never did that. I could because I was in ROTC, so I could do the take my pants off and make a flotation device out of it, so I could not drown. So I wasn't going to drown, but it really wasn't. I wasn't like proficient in really learning how to breathe because that was part of the reasons. That's like this breathing. How do I get the air in? So yeah. So it's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's good information to share with my husband who struggles with floating too.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah. I would wait a minute. YouTube videos were really good at doing that, teaching me some things that I did not know. So, and I know he's a YouTube guru. So,
YouTube University, is that what it is?
yes, yeah. So
Uh,
today we're talking about are my thoughts making me sick, and we're going to deal with my thoughts about an offense. My thought about an offense, specifically resentment and bitterness. Resentment and bitterness. Um, can we let's just sort of talk about what resentment is, and are there a difference between resentment and bitterness, and even a trauma? What does that mean?
so, do you guys want to take a shot at resentment or bitterness, and I can handle you know, the
Now
trauma
you go ahead and take it. Resentment. Tell us. So,
side? So, when you think about resentment, oftentimes it has to do with again our perception of how we take offense, right? So if I take offense to something that somebody did and I hold on to it, right? I end up becoming resentful of that person, right? So I'm holding it against them. I'm I'm thinking about it, and sometimes I might not even be thinking about it, but when they come into my presence, it's just like a feeling that I get, and I'm like, ooh, that person did this to me, and that thought will often come up. And it's really tied into, it's the same as bitterness, right? I become bitter at the thought of that person, or really about what I felt like that person did to me. So again, I'm harboring feelings against someone for something that I perceived, and perception is the key thing here in resentment and bitterness, something that I perceived did to harm me, right? So what was it that individual did to intentionally harm me? I think the perception is that they knew what they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
that they were possibly doing it on purpose, right? They had something against me. And so the attack was on me. And that's why I think this is a really good one for why are my thoughts making me sick, because um, sometimes, not sometimes, probably the majority of the time, we it's our perception about someone else, what someone else did. And I can give you a really good example that you wouldn't even think um, could be a result of it. So, say you have a parent who is not in your life, often like the absentee father or whatever, and maybe he just feels like he's not a good father, or for whatever reason, he's just not involved, and there's like some things going on. And so now I feel like first of all, there was something wrong with me. So he just didn't want to be in my life. So now I'm harboring bitterness and resentment against my father because of a choice that I felt he made towards me because of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Hope that helps.
That I think so. I think the other question that I would have, and maybe Melanie can chime, is sometimes I associated resentment with I've been deprived of something. If only so and so had done, or if only you had permitted me, or if only, and so I resent the fact that you did not provide this that I needed, and therefore I have resentment because I feel like the my current situation is a result of someone else's action, and so I resent the fact that you didn't, or you didn't provide, that you were absent, that you didn't do it. And so, um, and which leads to a long term, which I consider to be bitterness. And so you're sort of angry with people who had nothing to do with your certain circumstances, have nothing to do with your situation, and so have nothing to do with the fact that you chose this job and you got this job, and you resenting the fact that I had to take this job and I couldn't be what I wanted to be. And so you become bitter with people who have nothing to do with what your current status is.
I love the
Mel,
way that you worded that. That's perfect. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, and I agree. For me, it's also that it could be something real short, but when it start going into bitterness, it's something that I've held on for a long period of time. And so then it begins to take roots, and then it looks like, and then like Katrina, what you said, with my perception is like I perceive that this is the reason why you did it. So I'm making stuff up in my head as to why you did it, and I know you, and this is why. So this is what is going on. So now I'm holding this resentment toward you over something that I have just made up. And I was talking to my sister, and I realized I have been angry with a person now for about 3 years of something that they said that just really, I took something um my mother-in-law, she one of the things that she said to me when we first got married, she said, "I want to be honest with you. I am uncomfortable with my son moving to Arizona with your family. I don't know anything about your family. I don't know anything about you, and I don't know really how you guys are going to treat my son." I'm like, okay, I can respect that. That's a mother. That's what mothers do. And so when he got sick, um, she wanted a family member or someone she knew to come and check on him. I'm like, that's a good mother. But when I called the, individuals to come and check on them, their response was, well, that she wants somebody to be here, but that's not saying anything about you as a wife. And so my mind went, where did that come from? So then I took that to say, oh, so that means you've been talking about me as a wife. And did Clyde say something to you? So that went to a whole new different something. And all the person was saying was didn't want me to get upset at my mother-in-law. But I took it somewhere completely different. But I'm like, I understood that. And I had to tell the person, look, that's being a good mother. That don't have any reflection on me as a wife, but I took it there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I think when I think about things that I have resented, and carrying it forward, and having to, and this I think is one of the key challenges with resentment, is forgiveness. Um, to have this thought of not holding someone else accountable for my current state of affairs or my current situation. How do I do that? Because, um, and I say this all the time, I always have choice.
Mhm.
I always have choice, and I can always choose something different. The question I think that we're here now is saying, can my offenses, the things that offended me, make me sick? Can I be in a situation that causes me discomfort and pain? And so one of the things that recently came up, and I shared with Linda, um, when I was a teenager, about 16, maybe because I was driving, so about 16, 17, I worked for McDonald's. So I was, McDonald's, and so I worked on the weekends though, so I had to be there at like 5 in the morning. I did the cleanup before, so basic mandatory stuff. I hated the job, absolutely hated. I hated getting up that early in the morning, having to go to the job. I drove there, but I realized when I would drive, I would break out into sweat. I mean, I would just like all of a sudden just start sweating because of of this fact that I hated this thing. I hated doing it. And so the physical reaction to that was I broke out at some experiencing anxiety, and it was a physical reaction to this thing that I resented. I resented because what I resented because I got what ended up happening was I was on the cook. I was a cook on the grill, and I was too slow. So they fired me, and I was like, "Cool, I don't have to do this." My father decided he was going to call, and he went back up there, and he said, "So he's going to make them give me back my job." So I get back there, and so they said, he said, "Well, you didn't do due process. You didn't do it the way it's supposed to happen." I'm fine with being fired. I don't care how you did it. I'm just grateful to be out of there. So he goes back there, and they said, "Well, you didn't fire him right, and you should have given him warnings, blah, 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 blah." And so they said, "Well, okay, we'll give him a job. We'll give him a job," basically. So then I come on and on. All I'm doing is cleaning up, mopping floors. I mean, it was just, I hated it. And so I resented him for making me go back to the job. And then I resented being there and then giving me a job. So I'm now having this physical reaction to all of these things in this place, in this position, and that I'm in, that I don't want to be in. And I think that is where you recognize, okay, so something's happening to me physically as a result of these thoughts that I'm having and resenting this place that I'm in.
Absolutely. Pastor, that reminds me again, it goes back to when I have the one versus the five, right? When you think about that negative thought that you have because of a certain situation, whether it's something somebody did to you, or a mistake that you made, even on your own, what is that physical reaction that happens? And as it relates to this, it's what someone else's decisions, how someone else's decisions impacted me, right? And so,
Yeah,
what's that physical feeling that I feel in my body,
yeah,
right? Where is that going? So, when we start to feel those things, are they making you sick? Absolutely. Right? It's
yeah.
tied into, if you think about the physical reaction as you were thinking about it and as you were talking about it, where did you feel that at in your body?
Right here. Yep.
You can, and let me ask you this: did it feel the exact same way it felt when it happened all those years ago, or similar to it?
Mm.
A little, yeah. I think because I've gotten over it, because I had to have a different thought about it, right? I was grateful to have a job, right? Because at the time, I got fired, so I was trying to have some funds in that. But I really rejoiced when I got another job, so I loved it. It was like finally I got another job, I can quit, and so I was free from it. But I think the thing that I would say in regards to that is, can you imagine going through that through a long period of time
Mm.
and the impact that it would have on an individual's body to have that experience? Because I was only going 2 days a week. What would happen if I was going 5 or 6 days a week to the same place with those same emotions, having those same physical experiences? I think it would wear and tear, right? That it would eventually. I couldn't go through that day in and day out, and there are individuals who have gone through traumas and lived in places where that has been a day in day out. So you are constantly in this environment. It's sort of the a reminder of those who leave home. It's like you can't wait to get up in the morning to go somewhere, but then you dread coming home every night. And that kind of thing can have an impact on you physically. It's the fear of opening the door and not knowing what you're going to expect. Who's going to meet me at the door, and to the point where now it is a daily stressful thing, that you're fearful. I can imagine some individuals who deal with domestic violence, and the impact that it can have on you physically, because of that situation. So you can think about, even though you don't have that, after a while, your body is conditioned to feel this, and so and then it starts wearing on you. And so I talked to Tahir. Tahir was talking about that, in regards to that. We had Tahir on, who's a domestic violence expert, but she talks about the impact that those things have on you even after you're out of the situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it, one thing that you said that's extremely powerful, um, and you quickly glossed over it, right? But you said, I see it differently now. I see it different,
Mhm.
because what happens when we've had like those circumstances or those things happen to us, just like something just as simple as you working at McDonald's and not liking it, and then your father going back, if there was any resentment that you held, maybe even because he went back, right? And when you thought about that, so that's why I asked you, what were you feeling now? You were like, yeah, I feel where I felt it at, but I look at it differently now. And that is how we overcome, and that's how we change, by changing how we see those circumstances,
Mhm.
because those circumstances happening to us, remember, they don't go away, they're still there, but it's how we decide to view them. And when you think about it, it's like, I didn't have to stay there long. What were the benefits of you being there? And you start to see the positive things that connected with you being in that space. But not only that, every time you think about that, it's changing how you see it, right? Every time I think about that situation, like for instance, even with the domestic violence and with Tahira, it's every time I think about that situation, I look at you look at her now, right? She has a book. She's helping many women who have been through what she's been through, and so she can look back over that and she can say, if I had not have gone through that, I wouldn't be as effective or productive in what God has called me to do now. So now I can look back over that and I can see it different, right? It doesn't change the fact that that experience was a negative experience, but I no longer look at that experience and fear being in that same place, fear that happening to me. That fear is changing. And so it helps. I can even say when we look at things different to usher in forgiveness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I know one of the challenge in me, with me with forgiveness is I wanted people to say, I apologize and I'm sorry. And so it's like they can't see that they're doing wrong. I'm just gonna hold on to it until they say I'm sorry, I apologize. And it's like that's unrealistic because one, they may not feel the same thing. They may not even feel like they have offended me or affected me. Um, and two, that just may not be what they do, you know. So for me to be able to get over the offense without requiring the person to apologize was something that was huge for me.
yeah,
Ooh, and Melanie, again, I'm gonna tag on to what you just said because that right there is powerful. I remember going through L3, right? In L3, we learn to leave things at the foot of the cross. And what does that look like, leaving things at the foot of the cross? Because sometimes people may not be in the position, for one, to apologize, ask for forgiveness, right? And
Mm.
then it goes back to what we were stating earlier. My perception and what I thought about the situation may not even have been their intent, right? People don't, we wake up every day and walk in these offenses, whereas sometimes, and I would say probably the majority of the time, at least I know for a lot of my situations, the majority of the time, people had no intention on, they didn't wake up this morning and say, I think I'm gonna do this to Katrina, or I'm gonna say this to push her button because I know what button to push and I know how to push her button.
Mhm.
People are, I'm not that important, right? And so I'm important, but I'm not that important where
Right.
people are seeking to hurt me. And so my perception my perception of the event causes me to carry an offense, right? Causes me to think that people are just out to get me, that people just want to hurt me. And I don't even look at the fact that maybe something was going on in in their day, or they were busy and they were what is it? I have a tendency when I'm moving and I'm focused, I have a
Mhm.
one track mind. I might not even see that you standing there, and this happens at church a lot too, right? I might
Yeah.
not even see that you were standing there waiting to talk to me, or that you were looking to get a hug from me, or that you were trying to get my attention. I
Mhm.
was focused on the task at hand, trying to get somewhere, right? Trying to get somewhere. And that's what, and it's not because I don't like you, not because you did anything to me, but it just so happens that someone may have taken offense to that, to my one track mindedness. And now all
Right.
of a sudden, oh, she don't like me. She got attitude, or,
Mhm.
or something like that. And that was never my intention.
And don't
yeah,
get a new position or a title or something. Oh, ever since you got the title or the position, and it's like, no, my schedule is, I have more on my plate now. So there are certain things that I can't do that's extra that I used to be able to do. It had nothing to do with you. And on the flip side, I've had people apologize to me for something, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I had no idea what you're talking about. And they felt this guilt all this time, and I did not have
yeah,
a clue that they felt that they offended me. And and they didn't because I I had no idea. So sometimes we can hold on to things. And so what I have learned is because I know I can hold on things for a long period of time. And I know that about me. So with that, I have learned to communicate. And just a small communication is like, look, when we were in class, you did such and such, and you were going one direction, I was going another. So in the future, can we do this? You know, and the person thanked me for that, and it didn't happen again. You
Yeah.
know, so but is had I not communicated that, I would have been resentful and upset and the whole 9 yards, holding on to stuff that I really didn't need to hold on to. Just a matter of having a conversation.
I think one of the things that I would also encourage those of us who are observing this and is taking an understanding of your ability to confront.
Mhm.
There's some of us who have challenges. I'm one of them who have problem with confrontation, and our challenge with confrontation can cause us to hold on to things that we really need to express and find a way to express it. And that holding on to it again is what we talk about with resentment, and then the impact that it has on us physically.
Mhm.
Because one of the things we're in this series right now, my thoughts making me sick, is I need to really get to the root cause of that. My current state of challenges is that when I was experiencing the pain, and I think I've shared with everyone the pain I was experiencing in my hands and my feet and stuff, and not really knowing what's going on here. And I have to, and the doctor, saying we do all these tests, we can't find anything that is physically wrong, right? They do realize I do have some deterioration in my upper spine, but some of the other stuff is unexplainable. So then I have to deal with, okay, so am I stressed? Is there something that I'm holding on to? Are there circumstances around me that are causing this kind of discomfort? And that's hard. That's sort of difficult because that's the work of saying, well, I'm over that. Nobody can do that to me. That I'm not going to let that bother me, and so I can say things out of my mouth, but the truth of my body is telling me what you're saying is not adding up.
Mhm.
It's still, you're still holding this thought. You're still unable to confront. You're still not wanting to make that phone call. You're still not wanting to reach out and send that message. You're still wanting to hold on to it and say, I'm good, and I'm not. And that's really what we are, identifying is that even in my sharing my offense, and Sister Melanie said it before, Pastor Mel said, it's even in sharing it, I they may not respond the way I need to or that I would like for them to do it. But that's not the thing. The challenge is I need to express it and acknowledge it. And we tell children who have been who have been molested or who've had children, we say, tell somebody, right? Tell somebody. Somebody needs to know. And I think that when we hold on to our secrets, and we say it, secrets kill, but secrets also destroy us,
Mhm.
because it impacts and infiltrates our thought life.
Yeah. And for those of us who they struggle with confrontation or like to avoid confrontation, there are ways that we can communicate it. I teach. And when I first started teaching, doing teenage groups, one of the things that we would have is a way to communicate what was said. And it would often be as simple as, when I heard you say, so all I'm doing is restating what I heard the person say. And I recommend that when you do that, you paraphrase in the way that you heard it, right? So when I heard you say such and such and such, so you paraphrase it, that automatically gives the person an opportunity to be like, wait a minute, I didn't
That's
say
not
that.
what I said.
right? And so, so they say that, and then you follow up with what I thought about that was, right? And so now I can give you my perception of what I heard you say. And so I'm opening up the door to let you know that what I thought about that is that maybe you were mad at me, or you were trying to tell me off, and and then I'm glad you said something, because that wasn't my intention. But then that gives the other person room and grace to be able to say, no, that's not what I meant. I mean, I may have used a different word, right? But that's not what I meant. And that wasn't towards you. And so, because often we don't have that communication, so we leave that gap of what I thought I heard you say and what I felt about what you said open to resentment and bitterness.
That's good.
And this is going to help us close the gap to lingering resentment and bitterness.
That's good. That's good. Well, we're out of time again. It's been good. I pray that someone got a nugget from it. I did. At this point, one of you want to close us in prayer before we head off?
Pastor Melanie, go ahead.
Heavenly Father, we come thanking you and praising you for another Bob Talk, oh God. We just thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to hear your voice and help us to be able to communicate and release any type of offense or anger or bitterness that we may have. And we thank you for giving us that grace to be able to do that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back again next week, same time, same channel for Bob Talk. Bye, everybody.
Bye.